Hi everybody. I have gotten quite a few questions lately on the Kiwi Lane templates and how to do the banners and how to shade and make the banners look like they're supposed to be a folded ribbon. For those of you that don't know, with the Kiwi Lane templates, when there's like a little blue line here, what that basically means is that's a line that shows you where a draw line can be, or where a highlight or anything else like that can be. It's not something you have to cut. It's not something that you have to do anything with. You don't have to even do anything with it at all. You can just absolutely leave it blank. It's entirely up to you. It just gives you kind of a look on how that ribbon would be folded. And they're just guidelines. They're not something that says, okay, you have to draw it this way or you have to copy what we did. So, anyhow, what you do to get these lines is you take and you trace, well, not trace, but you draw in an area of where the lines are represented. I like for my banners to be a little bit more fluid, so I don't like straight lines. I do them kind of curved with a little bit of an angle, because if I was actually making this with ribbon, it wouldn't be a perfectly straight line. So I like to kind of mimic that look with my drawn line. So also another thing that I'm doing as I'm drawing this, I'm not pushing straight down with my pencil. I'm kind of coming in from the side and just really lightly touching that. Okay. So you can kind of see with just that pencil edge that it looks great. I mean, if I were doing this on white paper, I would absolutely leave that as it is. And with your pencil, if you really want to, you can kind of go in here really lightly and you can shade in some of these areas the same way you would with like a Copic or something to that effect if you were an artist, which by all means I am not in that sense of the word. Me and art crayons and all that kind of stuff really don't get along. So I'm just kind of highlighting in there. And because it's lead, if you know anything about drawing and artistry, you can really blend that in more and more and more with your fingers, or even like a little blending step. But you can kind of get the look and you can kind of see where I'm going with this. If you want to really highlight in whatever ink you're using, or you want to accent it that way to make it look like it's a color, Distress ink is really good for that purpose. Not only do we use Distress ink, because of our edges and everything else like that, but Distress ink has a really good blending property, so it works really, really well with the water brushes. If you don't have a water brush for this technique that I'm about to show you, you can just use a regular old paintbrush and then just have a little thing of water sitting by you that you can dip it in, and it works just like watercolors. Okay, so here's my ribbon, and this is how, we would normally recommend that you do your inking and everything else for your edges. And there's a couple of different things that you can do once you get all of your edges really nice and inked. All right, let me get this all finished up. Notice how I didn't erase any of my pencil marks on the outsides and the edges of where I drew. The reason why is because when you use this ink, it will blend those pencil lines, so you don't really have to do that. Okay, one of the techniques that I like to use is you take the very edge of the sponge dauber, and your daubers, once you use them quite a bit, have accumulated quite a bit of ink in there. So there really is lots of ink, even on those outer edges that you don't use very much. And you want to just very lightly go in here and hit where you have your little pencil line. And ironically, wherever you have that pencil line, when you're hitting it with this dauber, it's going to blend a little bit of that in with your ink. Okay, so you don't have to be like absolutely perfect. And if there's not a lot of ink left on the edge that you're working with, you can rotate your dauber just a tiny bit to a different area of it and get a little bit more. Okay, and then again, you're going to come in to the other line. Okay, and there's your edges. Just like that. And that gives you that kind of fake look of a false shadow and everything else. And if you want to go in and kind of blend it out a little bit more, you can. It's entirely up to you. You can come in and just kind of fluff out that edge just a little bit and give it a little bit of texture if you want. Just a couple of different techniques to make it look kind of fluffy. Okay, this is Tim Holtz. If you've ever seen his stuff, if you've ever seen him work, it's water reactive. So if you were to take a blending brush, you could actually come in to that ink and you can kind of blend it and play with it a little bit. And you'll see how it kind of darkens out and then it blends into that paper a little bit more. Okay, it's also mixing a little bit with my pencil line. So it's getting a little bit darker right along where that pencil edge is, and then you can kind of just blend it out from that point. Okay, so that's one technique that you can do, and it doesn't, you know, require a lot of materials or anything else, and it looks really, really pretty. Because you're using water, it will take a little bit to dry once you've already kind of messed with it a little bit, but other than that, it's good. Or you could just not use the water whatsoever, and then you could have left it the way that it was, like I have in the example there. Okay, you can just leave that. Another technique, if you have watercolor pencils, these are specifically made as a pencil style. Instead of doing the lines with your pencil, you can use the watercolor pencils. Now this one you can push down with, and you can add more and more, and the more color you add, the more you're going to get color wise when you add water to it. So you want to put down a little bit this way. Okay, add a little bit there. Okay. So again, just by itself, without adding the water, that looks really cute. But if you do take that watercolor brush and again, you blend it in, it gives you that really nice blended effect. Okay, just like so. And I do kind of like the watercolor pencils for this effect because they really do give you a nice soft look. But they also give you that nice crisp edge line as well. So that's all you do. Okay, and you can do that with any of them. This is a smaller banner, and I'll show you. I have the watercolor pencil technique done on this one as well. Okay. So I hope that helps a little bit. I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea on how to do it. Also, and I know everybody has their own little thing, and I'm going to turn this over and use the back because I'm running out of banners. I've had to redo this video a couple times with my kids coming home from school. So, okay. The Tim Holtz ink, if you have a glass mat, if you want to put that ink directly on that glass mat, you can do that. And then if you take a brush directly to the Tim Holtz ink, you can get that same line effect directly with that water brush. Okay. Again, I'm not the world's most perfect painter, so me and brushes don't always get along. Okay, and then blend that out just a little bit. Probably off frame a little bit, but you know, you kind of get where I'm going with it. The more you want to play with it and the more color you want to add and everything else, the more shading you can get. Okay. And then again, when you blend with your dauber and you go back in and do your edges, you can see how that really kind of pops it back out. Okay, oops, that's still a little bit wet. Whenever you're working with Tim Holtz and you're working with water, that water will really soften the look of your Tim Holtz. All right, so I hope that makes a little bit more sense, and I hope that, you know, gives you another way that you can play around with your distress inks and also, you know, your Kiwi Lane templates, just to give you a little accent, a little bit, you know, different look to them. Thanks for watching.